Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I bring you news today that is containing Michigan. Seeming that they are pretty much breaching the First Amendment, and they should probably be sued and many other things because they are breaching that set of First Amendment. And what I mean by this is that Michigan House passes bill that could make misgendering someone a felony. The bill, HB 4474, passed through the Democrat-controlled state House in the 5950s vote, will now lead to the Senate for a vote. The legislation seeks to amend the Ethnic Intimidation Act in the Michigan Penal Code to state that a person is guilty of a hate crime if that person maliciously, intentionally does any of the following to an individual based in a whole or in part on an actual or perceived characteristic of that individual, and goes on to list intimidating another individual as one of the actions. The legislation also uses harassment in its definition of intimidate without defining what would rise to that level. Intimidate means a willful course of conduct involving repeated or continuing harassment of another individual that would cause a reasonable individual to feel terrorized, frightened, or threatened, and that actually causes the victim to feel terrorized, frightened, or threatened, the bill states. Both sexual orientation and gender identity or expression are listed as classes that will be protected from being words. Gender identity or expression means having or being perceived as having a gender-related self-identity or expression, whether or not associated with an individual's assigned sex at birth. The bill says anyone found guilty of violating this update to the law will be guilty of a felony punishable by imprisonment for not more than 5 years, or by a fine of not more than $10,000. Free speech advocates have branded the bill as a violation of the Constitution's First Amendment as a compelled speech and denial of a biology that was widely accepted until recently. If passed, penalties will be based on how the supposed victim in court feel about a particular matter. The Daily Mail noted what constitutes as a being deemed intimidation and harassment will be up to the interpretation of the listener and local prosecutor. Distinguished Professor Emeritus William Wagner, a former federal judge and legal counsel in the U.S. Senate, told the Daily Wire that this policy would be used as a weapon capable of destroying conservative expression. Make no mistake about it. Those advocating for this legislation will wield these policies as a weapon capable of destroying a conservative expression or viewpoints grounded in the sacred, Wagner told the Daily Wire. One merely needs to look at the scores of cases brought against schools, the churches, businesses, and individuals around our country. Proponents use these laws to silence and financially cripple those who dare to adhere to a different viewpoint and oppose their agenda. Wagner explained that if passed, someone could listen to a preacher and be offended and intimidated because their perceived gender identity is being attacked. He said that the policy determines what is a criminal after the action, in stark comparison to the due process required by the Constitution. Exactly. So, what the Democrats are doing, again, are using their authoritarian ability to silence people that they don't like and make sure that you won't be able to speak on anything that could oppose them, right? Because obviously, and what I mean by oppose, is that if you call somebody a ma'am or a female or whatever, but they like to be called a male, you're imprisoned for 5 years and possibly $10,000. Especially if you make it an accidental thing, and then all of a sudden the accident becomes a crime because you mispronounced their name or mispronounce their gender or their identity or whatever. This is a huge violation of the First Amendment by a great margin. This bill shouldn't even come close to passing because, again, it violates the First Amendment it's egregious in every way possible. So, again, I don't see to where this actual bill can go through and the Senate look at this and be like, yeah, this is okay. This doesn't violate the First Amendment at all. It's asinine. And this is what we're talking about with you leftists and you trans individuals. You are literally trying to make it to where people cannot speak against you. That's what you're doing. You're using your authoritarian ideas to prevent people from speaking about you. And then, let's put this into perspective. Now, everybody can say the N-word with the hard ER, right? Everybody can obviously say this. But you can't be arrested or jailed for this, all right? Now you can be fired or whatever by company if you're a private company and you can do this stuff, right? But if or if it's like, for instance, we were doing actually potentially racist, right? But again, you can't be put into jail for saying the word. What they're doing is saying like, okay, you say you misgender someone by saying the opposite sex, you can literally be jailed for it for whatever reason. In fact, people, even though they don't agree with it, they can literally say, "Oh, I don't like what you just said to me because you said something, you didn't say my correct gender," and bam, automatic. Can you be put in prison, in jail for it because they didn't say something that you didn't like? It's completely insane. I cannot believe a bill like this is even remotely coming true or remotely being projected in our country. This is the problem with these leftists. They want to silence us, and it's getting completely asinine. I hope this bill never goes through. I hope that the Michigan people will fight against this if this does go through, because this is insanity. This is what I meant by they were coming after our rights, and I was not wrong about it. I said this about 3 years ago during an actual event during our Christmas area with one of our relatives, and she said that no, that's not possible. You're absolutely wrong. Well, guess what? I guess that's exactly what they're doing, because last time I checked, trying to prevent somebody from speaking or putting into jail for words is completely insane. That is completely against the First Amendment. Again, we desperately need to win the 2024 election. Otherwise, every last one of our rights are completely gone. We won't be able to speak what we want to. And that's what their biggest aim for. Alright guys, that's it for the video. Like, subscribe, share. As always, take care.